Hello YouTubers, this is cessnaace back again with another video disc ads video, this time a Sinister Cinema Extravaganza. Now, I have 14 DVDs here. All of them were listed in the flyer that came previous to this one. They include a copy of their latest flyer with every order. The one previous to this one listed their new titles for 2019. This one includes some additional new titles that have just been offered for 2020. And I believe they're going to be adding more later in the year. Anyway, I am keeping this as a reference because all of these titles are described herein. And of course the handy dandy invoice that came with the order. Alright, I don't want to put that there. Now, prior to the 12 that I received today, I had received 2. And one of the 2 that I had ordered came damaged. Did I say came? Arrived damaged. Death Falls Lightly. Now, I contacted Sinister Cinema. I mentioned that I had tested the disc. It played fine in 2 different players. The artwork was undamaged. All I needed was a new case. And they promptly sent me a new case. And of course, it was easy as pie putting the artwork in the new case. I wish Something Weird Video did this. They include one little kernel of shipping corn in with each case so that the case is less likely to become damaged, although in the case of this one it didn't help. That's the card I've already made for it. I started to watch this one, but it is subtitled, and the subtitles fly by rather quickly. So I'm going to have to give this another shot. Okay. Thought it wasn't closing, but it was. Let's see here. Death Falls Lightly, widescreen, 1972, and then it lists the cast. A man finds his wife brutally murdered. He has no alibi, so is instructed by his lawyer to go into hiding in an old abandoned hotel. Strange occurrences start happening immediately, including the discovery of a woman with her throat cut. The hotel setting of this film is in some ways reminiscent of The Shining. I didn't really get that vibe, but whatever. Watch for the scene with the locked glass doors. Brrr. A well-done entry in the giallo genre. Color from 35mm. Alright, 35mm. There's that one. Now, the other one that I received at the same time that I received Death Falls Lightly is this one. A Public Cemetery Under the Moon, aka A Public Cemetery of Woha. This is a South Korean horror film in widescreen with subtitles, but unlike Death Falls Lightly, the subtitles don't fly by on this one, so I was able to catch all of them. Now, this might be a good opportunity to show you that in some instances where it's a foreign film, for example, I'll list alternate titles, and in this case that it is in Korean with English subtitles. (1967). I thought this was a pretty good film. Let's see how it is listed. I should have made more of an effort, I suppose, in finding where everything is listed. But, oh well. Next we have another horror film. Crimson, The Color of Terror. Let's see, catalog number H600D. Now, all of the Sinister Cinema DVDs use a generic style label, like this one. This next one, I'm not sure if it's an American film or a British film. These I haven't looked up yet on IMDb. This is Crook's Tour, 1940. Basil Redford, Nathan Wayne, Greta Gint, Charles Oliver. Two travelers by the random act of ordering certain items off a menu find themselves the unwitting carriers of a photograph record filled with secret Nazi info. Of course, the Nazis try everything possible to eliminate them. Complicating things is the beautiful Greta Gint, who is precious as a gorgeous double agent posing as a nightclub singer and dancer. The boys' escapades take them all over Africa, the Middle East, and finally to a Gothic European castle where they are finally captured and scheduled for execution. Good tongue-in-cheek elements, or excitement rather. 35mm. That one is catalog number AA115D. AA is for action adventure. Okay. They generally try to use a reproduction of the original poster, but when they can't find that, as in the case of the previous one, they grab a still from the picture and from the film and make a strip like this. Deadly Record. That is catalog number M593D. M being mystery. See all their prefixes and their catalog numbers denote which genre it is in. Okay. This gritty little thriller has airline pilot Patterson returning home to discover his wife has apparently left for a trip. A little later, when the police pay him a visit regarding a car accident, Patterson and the police are shocked to discover his wife's dead body, murdered in her studio. Naturally, Patterson becomes the cop's #1 suspect, and it doesn't help that his wife has been playing around with other men. He soon sets out to find the real killer before the police put the noose around his neck. Short, sweet, and most memorable from 16mm. Alright, the catalog number is also listed here. Now, this title is in German. It includes in the cast John Philip Law. That is the German title, although I don't recall whether this is actually a German film or not. It may be that the German language poster was all that they could find. The English language title is The Devil's Bed. And that is catalog number H590D, H being horror. Okay, exploitation, jungle thrills, murder mystery, action adventure, science fiction and fantasy, horror. Well, I'm not seeing that one, but I am seeing Crimson, the Color of Terror. 1973 widescreen. This Nazi thriller, or chiller, features a mad scientist who decides to push the boundaries of science and perform a head transplant on an injured criminal. The results, however, are not quite what the good doctor expects, as his creation becomes a far more deadly creature than the criminal ever was, similar in some ways to the old Karloff Lugosi Universal classic, Black Friday, an interesting combo crime horror film. Beautiful color from 35mm. Catalog number H600D. All right. This is The Devil's Flute. Or Devil's Flute. Whatever. Now, see, if I went and edited this thing down, edited out all of the dead space, it would probably be a more interesting video, but what can I say? Devil's Flute, widescreen, 1979. Okay, this one is a Japanese film. A really well-made Japanese locked room murder mystery set in the 1930s. The famous Nipponese detective Kendachi is called in to investigate several murders. His investigations soon point at members of a wealthy family, which, as it turns out, has many secrets to hide. This is a great whodunit, loaded with twists, turns, and unexpected events. Great color, 35mm. And as I mentioned earlier, from 1979. And, pardon me. I did the best I could to block the microphone. Okay. Like I said, that's Devil's Flute. And you will not believe what I paid for these. Okay, next up we have Extravaganza. Not sure that's how it's pronounced. I have noticed that with each passing year, the new additions to the Sinister cinema lineup tend to concentrate more and more on foreign fare. Okay, catalog number H592D, so horror. And these are, the listings in here are broken down by genre. I don't know why I'm looking there, because that's a list of the new titles just offered. I should have pulled the previous flyer. But obviously a vampire film. I don't know how well that you can see his fangs there. Something else I've noticed is an ever-increasing number of widescreen releases. That one doesn't indicate that it's widescreen, however. And they have begun re-releasing some of the titles that they had earlier released and standard transfers that are now offered in widescreen transfers. Alright, this is 4 Hours of Terror. This is another Japanese film. Okay, catalog number M584D. That would be mystery. And it's not on in this flyer. What do you know about that? Okay, this one has a really interesting premise, and I look forward to watching it. The poster they used is obviously a foreign poster. This is called H8. Catalog number AA117D, so action adventure. Okay, 1958. I'll skip past the cast because they're all foreign names except for, well, Stain. Sever is probably foreign, but I can pronounce it. You have to remember ADHD and dyslexia, so bear with me. This unique thriller is about two vehicles, a bus and a truck, that speed toward each other along a narrow two-lane highway on a stormy night. Right from the start, we learn that the two vehicles will eventually collide because of a reckless driver. It's even pointed out which seats will spell death for their occupants. Then, as the film races to its grim climax, the viewer gets to know the many characters riding within each vehicle, and wonder whether they will live or die. English subtitles from 16mm. H8. And I think I did look this one up on IMDb, and if I remember correctly, it has a high rating. Okay, this one I know is in here. Jonathan. Another vampire, looks like. Catalog number H598D. So that would be horror. In fact, okay, and there's one in here you're not going to believe, but anyway, Jonathan, widescreen edition, 1969. Revising history, this film portrays a 19th century landscape where vampires have taken over the world. Even worse, these vampires are immune to the rays of the sun and have become a twisted form of aristocracy. But a brave group of humans plan a daring revolt. They select Jonathan, a strong-willed young man, to seek out the vampire's head honcho and destroy him. Naturally, the vampires are prepared to give him trouble every step of the way. A very engaging piece of Euro horror, color from 35mm. And as I mentioned in widescreen. I think this one is a film that's kind of derivative of And Then There Were None. The killer reserved 9 seats. Catalog number H598D. So horror. Okay. I, of course, found it. 1974. A millionaire invites a group of people to a creepy, abandoned theater. It turns out the theater is the site where an entire family was slain long ago. I'm holding this, and my hand is shaking. Within a short time, the guests realize that they are trapped and at the mercy of a bloodthirsty killer who begins bumping them off one at a time. There are some truly shocking scenes and even a supernatural twist, fate, in the film. Not a perfect movie, but still great fun. Rated R. Great color, 35mm. There's some bonuses at the end I want to get to, by the way. All right. Another Japanese film, I believe. This is The Koga Ninja. All right. This is catalog number H596D. I just bumped the microphone. Sorry about that. Widescreen edition, 1957. This supernatural thriller is about 2 feuding clans in ancient Japan. Complicating things is a child who is taken hostage by one of the families. In the film's exciting climax, both families are represented by their top ninja warriors who clash in an epic duel. The ninjas have a wide variety of uncanny powers, including invisibility and ninja-style teleportation. There are also numerous horrific creatures on hand, including a giant spider, a fire-breathing snake, a giant frog, and a terrifying dragon. Lots of supernatural trickery in this well-made thriller. English subtitles with 35mm. Okay, this is the one you're not going to believe. A, because it stars Dean Jones, who made a lot of movies in the 60s and 70s for Disney. In fact, Disney Plus has at least 6 of his movies, which he made for them. This one is a K-Tel presentation. For those of you who are my age, you remember K-Tel as being a company that released compilations of hits from the era, hits of the 70s, disco hits of the 70s, country hits of the 80s, whatever, from K-Tel. Anyway, K-Tel presentation, and it does have the K-Tel logo on it. Dean Jones in Mr. Super Invisible. For example, he was in the original That Darn Cat for Disney. He was in the original The Love Bug. He was in The Love Bug Goes to Monte Carlo. He was in quite a few films for Disney, this not being one of them. But from the premise, you would think that this was a Disney film. Catalog number 405D. I believe that is suspense. No, it's science fiction and fantasy. 1970. Jones, see if this doesn't sound like a Disney film of that era. 1970. Jones is a professor who stumbles onto a mysterious potion that makes him invisible. When a gang of crooks finds out about this invisibility serum, naturally they come after him. Will Jones discover his antidote, beat the crooks, and get the girl? This film has a lot of wacky humor. Some works, some doesn't. Sounds like a Disney film from the 70s. But overall, it's an amusing sci-fi comedy that reeks with 70s subculture. Nice color, 16mm. Mr. Super Invisible. Okay, now, I don't know where to go first. Something I forgot to show in a recent video of ads that included some ads from Something Weird Video that I need to show, but also there is a note in this flyer. There's an update on Sinister Cinema's status and their new $98 special. That's 12 DVDs or books as part of their Armchair Fiction series of science fiction, fantasy, horror, and murder mystery titles. Any 12 for $98 plus paid. And that's what I did with this order. What you do is you first add the $98 special to your shopping cart at their site, www.sinistercinema.com. I'll try to put a link down there. And then you add to the cart everything you want. And I'm trying to remember how much it is. Well, first of all, it's $98 for 12 titles. But I can't remember whether it's $6 or what exactly for each additional title. I only got 12 titles. And then the two that had come just ahead of this order. Anyway, I could briefly go over their new titles, but I wanted to go over this too because it's a letter from Greg Luce, who runs Sinister Cinema. First of all, I want to thank everyone who has supported us over the past year. 2019 was a good year, far better than we had expected and light years ahead of 2018. As you all know, last year saw the publication of the final Sinister Cinema catalog, in which we announced the possibility we might shut down the company or, at the very least, reduce it to part-time hours. I am pleased to tell you that we will continue on a part-time basis through January 2021. So here's what we are going to do. As of February 1st, 2020, we have reduced Sinister Cinema's hours to a 4-day schedule. Our new hours of operation will be Tuesday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., occasionally on Monday if things get busy. The future. Last year, when we announced the possibility of Sinister Cinema shutting down, many longtime Sinister customers were aghast. But as long as the company is profitable, I plan on keeping it open. So again, the fate of the company more or less rests in the hands of you, our devoted Sinister / Armchair Fiction patrons. I must admit, I was really surprised at the response we had in 2019. Now, recently, they had discontinued offering their titles in VHS. They only stopped doing that in 2019 because they could no longer find any blank VHS stock, unused, factory sealed. Something Weird Video stopped offering VHS by comparison in 2011. I believe it might have been 2012, but by 2012 they had stopped. So Sinister Cinema continued until the end of last year when they ran out of tape. Now, I have tried contacting Greg Luce. Well, I did get a hold of him about that damaged case that they sent a replacement for. I got an email from one of his assistants first, and then an email from him thanking me for being a customer and sorry for the damaged case, and they will immediately ship out a replacement case, which they did. And it arrived in perfect condition, and as you saw, and all that. I'm not going to read the rest of it because it's quite lengthy. But they have 39 new releases for 2020. Now, some are their armchair fiction titles, but for science fiction and fantasy, they have added High Treason Special Edition, 1929, Night of the Blood Beast, widescreen, 1958. That's one Something Weird Video offers. Beyond the Time Barrier, widescreen, 1959. Creature from the Haunted Creature from the Haunted Sea, widescreen, 1961. Alternative 3, 1977. The Dead Mountaineers Hotel, 1979. Horror Thrillers, The Green Chamber of Linnaeus, 1945. The House of Ghosts, 1951. The Devil's Hand, widescreen, 1961. The Face of Terror, widescreen edition, 1962. Now this is one they had offered. It's in my catalog, the last catalog I have from them, by the way, but it was not a widescreen transfer. This is. They just list the title as Incredibly Strange Creatures / Mixed Up Zombies. The full title is something like The Incredibly Strange Creatures, Mixed Up Creatures Who Became something zombies. I don't remember the exact title. It's really long, and it's also a musical, if I remember correctly. And widescreen for the first time, Ray's a drifter who's drawn to an eerie sideshow where he's hypnotized by a gypsy and turned into a killer zombie. Hidden in cages are other zombies whose faces have been disfigured with acid by the gypsy and her hunchback. At the climax, Ray and the creatures go on a rampage. Now, below that is another one that they offered. Jesse James Meets Frankenstein's Daughter. Now, I have that on DVD already. One of those dollar DVD releases. However, it's not in widescreen. This is. So, there's that. Great color. Unsatisfied Love, 1968. You've heard of the classic German film M with Peter Lorre. This is W. 1974, starring Twiggy and Dirk Benedict, really? And so forth and so on. Twiggy and her husband, that would be Michael Whitney, are victims of near-death experiences. Even worse, they are horrified when they discover they are in the crosshairs of a maniac who, in his madness, leaves the letter W at the scene of their near-fatal accidents, which are in quotes. Accidents. Determined not to fall victim to their would-be killer, the couple sets out to discover the madman's identity before it's too late. A taut thriller. Great color from 16mm. The Dummy. All right. From 1976. Murder mysteries, suspense, crime, film noir. Those titles, by the way, aren't as expensive as the science fiction / fantasy. Those are typically $16.95, but the mystery, suspense, crime, film noir genres, as well as action adventure and horror thrillers, are generally $12.95. Streamline Express, 1945. And I like how on some of the older American pictures, anyway, they list the studio that made it. In most cases, a Poverty Row studio. In this case, Mascot. That film from 1935. Okay, The Missing Boys of St. Agile, 1938. King of the Underworld, 1952, starring Todd Slaughter. And The Reisig Mystery, 1960. I'm only guessing on that because, the star names look like Polish. It's 1960. Although some of the names also look like they might be French. Anyway, subtitled in English from 35mm. And then they have some new titles in the action-adventure genre. Danger Lights, 1930. Born of the Sea, 1949. Sergeant X of the Foreign Legion, 1960. And Blazing Sand, 1960. And then they have 16 new releases in the armchair fiction line. Now, something I forgot to show when I did one of my recent VideoDisc ads, I had shown a double feature that I had purchased that was released in conjunction with Image Entertainment and Something Weird Video. It was a Betty Page double feature of Verities and Teaserama. Now, it came with this. All of my orders recently from Something Weird Video have come with this. But also a mock VHS slipcase for Verities, which I actually did put together at one point just to see if I could. With a description on the back and everything. I don't know where the genesis of this came from. Sorry about that. But as I mentioned, Something Weird Video stopped releasing VHS tapes in 2011, and in any event, I have some Something Weird Video VHS releases, and none came in slipcases. They all came in MRA cases, hard shell MRA cases. In fact, all of my custom color box releases from Sinister Cinema also came in hard shell MRA cases. They only offered those for a short while. When they ran out, they quit offering that feature or service or whatever. Okay, so that's going to be it for me next time. And until next time, oh, I almost didn't shout out a patron supporter. Andrew J.M. If you would like to be shouted out as a Patreon supporter, please check the link down below. Also, please consider voting thumbs up, preferably, or adding a comment below. That all helps the analytics with YouTube. And I'm sure that I've had some subscribers suddenly find themselves unsubscribed to me, because that's been happening to a lot of channels lately. I don't know what YouTube did to their algorithms, but I have noticed that a lot of channels that I am subscribed to, I found that I was unsubscribed to them unceremoniously, and so I had to resubscribe. So that's going to do it for me this time. Until next time, stay awesome.